This week on Empowering Midlife Wellness, I'm breaking down this very complex sounding idea of how to be healthy into just the very basics. The basics of nutrition, of movement, of rest, of hormone optimization. Also talking a little bit about emotional and sexual wellness. Just the basics. If we just took care of that low-hanging fruit, everything else would be okay. Check it out. Hi friends, and welcome to this week's episode. If you're just joining me, I'm Dr. Susan. I'm a board-certified gynecologist and certified menopause practitioner dedicated to taking care of women through perimenopause, menopause, and through later life so we can not only feel great now, but also maximize the chances that we'll live a healthy, long life with fewer chronic diseases. So today I'm going to try to simplify things because I know many of my patients tell me this, and I feel like this too. All of this information, there is just billions of pieces of data being thrown at you every day about what to do to be healthy. So sometimes now and then I just want to narrow it down to what I consider to be the really important things. If you just did these things, all of that other minutia really doesn't matter. So, you know the saying, don't step over $1 to get to a penny, goes something like that. Get the low-hanging fruit. If you're not eating well, not exercising, it does not matter what fancy supplements you're taking. Let's just start with the basics, and then you can add the fancy stuff if you want to, because there's millions of ways to make it your own, to personalize it, try little things that you might want to try to make it personal for you. But if you don't have the basics first, none of it's going to matter. And I totally understand, I have this too, I totally understand this resistance that we have for some reason to just taking care of the basics. We've got this I don't want to mentality, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that, because when we can get out of that mentality and just say, all right, Susan, person, you, is this decision that I'm making leading to what I call my optimal older day? My old lady who's healthy, she's exercising, she's having sex with her partner, she's playing with her grandkids, she's getting up and down off the floor, she's traveling, she's cooking for her friends, she's doing all these amazing things. If I want to be that older lady, I better make some really good decisions now, or that is never going to happen. And so once we can internalize that, we really want that, this is what we want, then making those decisions stops being so difficult. It starts flowing easily because we want to do it, because we know it's good for us, rather than being like a little child who's being told what to do by their parent, like, you have to eat this, you have to do that. No one's going to do that. We resist that. No one wants to be told what to do. So I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you what you already know. I'm going to remind you what you already know, and I'm going to ask you to consider doing these things because you want to have this optimal older day, this vision of yourself in the future. Maybe you're not starting anywhere near that right now, but that doesn't even matter. Wherever you're starting, you can still have your optimal older day. But the decisions that you make now are going to lead there, or they're going to lead to the other place, the place that my mom is in, who is 91 with dementia, osteoporosis, lost 6 inches of height, probably has a total of a couple of pounds of muscle in her whole body and can't even get up out of a chair, leaking urine. No, we don't want that. And is that normal for a 91-year-old? Yes, but normal is not optimal, so we don't want that, right? So which way are our decisions taking us? And I'm going to break it down into the big categories, and let's look at each of them. Just a few points under each one. Not forget about the book on each one, just a few pointers. Nutrition. I'm not going to call it diet, it's nutrition. We're feeding our optimal older day. Yay, that's a fantastic, wonderful, loving act. It's not dieting. That's a restrictive, painful, small, awful sounding act, right? So nutrition, feeding our optimal older day. Number one, we'll talk about that. Movement to fuel our optimal older day. Not exercise, because we have to, but moving our beautiful body so that we can have our optimal older day. That sounds good, right? Rest. Can't forget to rest and sleep. Why? Because it protects our brain so that we can, guess what, have our optimal older day. Is this sounding like a broken record? And then what about relationships and emotional wellness? Now, I could have put that first because honestly, that's the most important thing, I think. What does it matter if you've got a really healthy body and you're really fit and your labs look great if you're miserable in a toxic relationship full of drama, depression, anxiety? You're not happy, and so living longer doesn't sound that great. So let's put emotional wellness up there at the top with those other things, right? And then hormonal wellness, a kind of broken record goes without saying, but I am going to touch on it because hormonal wellness is important, and just in that same bucket, just the status of your chemistry in your blood, how's your body doing in general. So let's just look at those things. That sounds like enough, doesn't it? Okay, so here it goes. It's simple. Simple, simple, simple. Nutrition. Forget about every diet you've ever been on. Forget about every book you've ever read with a name of an author who gives it a special spin. Here's what we know. People disagree about a million things, but here's what we agree on. Nutritional science agrees on this. Ladies, we need to eat more protein. If you just did that, forget every other thing, you would correct most of the problems that you've struggled with, that I've struggled with my whole life. Why is that? Well, protein is what our muscles are made out of. They're made out of amino acids, and amino acids are what comprise protein. We need muscle. Also, protein takes more calories to burn. It revs up our metabolism just by eating it. It's very filling. It doesn't elevate our blood sugar, so it's great for our metabolism. If you eat 1 gram of protein per ideal body weight, not your actual body weight, but your ideal body weight. You can go back to an old-fashioned chart and guess what that would be. So let's just say that's 120 grams of protein a day for me. When I do that every day, everything falls into line because I'm full, I'm not hungry, I'm not craving snacks, I'm building muscle, or at least maintaining what I currently have. My blood sugar is staying stable. Every good thing happens. My metabolism's improved, and it's yummy because protein is in really delicious things. I don't eat meat, but those of you who do, meat, fish, chicken, eggs, dairy, beans, lentils, so many things. In fact, I'm going to put a link to a list of how much protein is in certain foods below. We give it to every single patient. Some of the things I was really surprised about, like edamame, huge amount of protein. I mean, so protein is in so many yummy things. And then I'm not buying this excuse that I don't have time, because if I have time, you have time. I'm just saying. There are really great protein supplements out there now. And so how do we choose one? Well, there are millions of them, literally, but we know whey protein, yes, that is dairy, but out of all the kinds of protein, whey protein is the best absorbed into muscle. It's the best tested against other types of protein supplements for helping our muscles to stay stable and or build. So if you can tolerate dairy, a whey protein supplement's great. I have one every day for breakfast. It's got 40 grams of protein in it. It's made by Thorne. I love Thorne. They don't pay me, but I love their products, so happy to share that information with you. I've made a video before about how I just put that in a glass of water and drink it, and there you go, 40 grams of protein. That's 1/3 of my daily needs right there. I also have a little bit of yogurt with some hemp seeds. That's an extra 20 grams. So I'm actually getting more than 50 grams of protein just for breakfast, and it takes about as long as that sentence took to say. So that's one way to do it. You don't have to. I was on vacation this week. I had 3 boiled eggs. That's 25 grams of protein, and a pot of Greek yogurt. That was another 12. So I was getting more than 30 grams of protein just in my breakfast. So the way I look at it is I eyeball. I don't count meticulously because that makes me too food obsessed. Eyeball what I'm eating, and if it has 30 grams of protein, great. If it doesn't, I adjust it to make sure it has at least 30. And if I ate 30 grams of protein 3 times a day, I already mentioned I have more than that for breakfast. And then maybe a snack or two, some almonds, some beans, a David protein bar. Now, I love David protein bars because they're a very clean source of protein. 27 grams of protein. It is a whey protein with no sugar. So that's a very, very good, high-quality protein bar. I love them. Again, they don't pay me, but I like to share what I've learned, so you can get those on Amazon or anywhere. If I have a 27-gram David protein bar and my 30 grams 3 times a day, voila, I've got my 120 grams of protein, and guess what? I'm full, so I don't have cravings for potato chips. I don't have a crash in the afternoon because my blood sugar's dropped and I want to go to Starbucks and get a big, huge sugary latte and a scone, which I used to do, and then I wondered why I felt bad. So protein, number one. So that is the number one most important tip, and honestly, if you just did that, everything else would fall into line. Now, you could intentionally take sugar out, yes, and we might want to think about doing that. Sugar is, let's just say, not good. Diabetes or metabolic problems are one of the most prevalent health conditions that we have that lead to chronic disease and ultimately to death. Now, death from diabetes is usually from a heart attack, not so much from amputation, blindness, loss of a kidney, all the other things that happen with diabetes, because typically we have a heart attack before we get to that point, because when we've got diabetes, it dramatically increases our risk of heart disease. So you can just see how important it is that we keep our blood sugar, glucose levels very stable. Now, if you're not sure how to do that, or if you said, look, Dr. Susan, I really have cut out sugar and I'm still gaining weight, I'm still feeling highs and lows in my sugar just the way that I feel, we can put a continuous glucose monitor on your arm and we can find out exactly what's going on. You can get those now online without a prescription. Stello.com, $99, you get 2 of these things. It will tell you exactly what it is that you're eating that's shooting your blood glucose up if you're not able to figure it out, because it's tricky. And then you can work with that, do some experiments with what you're eating, combined with exercise, eating protein, eating more fiber, to keep your blood glucose levels relatively stable during the day. Now, if you just ate protein, that's really going to help keep your blood glucose stable. And then if you want a little bit more information or it's still confusing, stick on a Stello for a couple of weeks. Super simple, and that will tell you everything you need to know. So nowadays when I have patients who come in and they say, look, Dr. Susan, I just don't know, I'm still getting fat around the middle, I'm not losing weight, I don't know what it is that's causing it. I'm like, you know what, I'm not even going to go through the food diary with you like I used to minute by minute. I tell patients now, okay, stick that on, come back in 2 weeks and let's talk about it. That will find it. And now that you can get it without a prescription, why the heck not? It sends the data to your phone. It gives you all the information that you need. And I can't count the number of patients that has unearthed the problem. They were like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that when I ate my nut thins that seem so healthy that my blood glucose shoots up through the sky and that makes my insulin go up and that makes me get fat around the middle. And so now I'm going to eat my nut thins with a can of tuna or a piece of cheese, or I'm just not going to eat them, or I'm going to exercise afterwards, or all the different ways that we could mitigate that. So number one, protein. Number two, reduce or eliminate sugar, or figure out what's going on with your blood glucose. Now, if you can eat sugar and your blood glucose is stable, carry on, more power to you. If you're an athlete, you're running marathons, you're doing Ironman triathlons, lifting weights for 2 hours a day, you can probably eat a lot of sugar. But for most of our patients, possibly, probably not. So there's no one nutrition plan that's right for every person. Every person needs protein. Some people can tolerate more carbs than others based on their activity or their genetics. But hey, let's find out. So glucose monitor, huge fan. I made a video about that. Taught me a lot when I did that for myself. So those 2 things together. Now, fiber, it's indigestible by humans, but fiber has countless beneficial properties. One of them is it stabilizes our blood glucose. Again, very, very important. It also is great for bowel function. It reduces colon cancer, lots and lots of benefits. So we need a lot of fiber. So it would not be a good idea just to live on protein powder. People have tried it because there's no fiber in there. Also lacking lots of other nutrients. I'm being a little facetious. So we want lots of green vegetables, lots of colored vegetables, plus or minus a fiber supplement. So get your fiber, ladies. We need about 30 grams of fiber a day. It's very hard to do that. 1 serving of lettuce is about 2 grams. So big, huge plate of vegetables and or a fiber supplement. Okay, so that's it. And water, all right? So I've got 4 tricks, and they're not even tricks. Eat protein, lower sugar, eat fiber, drink lots of water. And then I guess my number 5, just because 5 is a cute number, is processed food. Get rid of it. If you could not eat anything with a barcode on it, that would be amazing. Now, David bars have a barcode. That's true. Thorne protein powder has a barcode, so that's not always true. But if you're reading the label, and you often hear people say, if you can't pronounce the name of what's in there, don't eat it. Processed food is full of hidden sugar. Makes your glucose go up. And if you have a CGM on, continuous glucose monitor, you're going to see that right away. Those nut thins, not so healthy. That granola, actually not so healthy. Those Cliff Bars, like a candy bar. So the wrapping sometimes is very, very misleading. And again, if you're not sure, check, because the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. When you've got a continuous glucose monitor on, it'll just tell you what your blood glucose is doing, and then argument solved, right? So super simple, just do those things. And if you only want to do one of those fives, do protein, and then add one more. That's really simple. It doesn't take any time at all. You can eat what you're eating now. Let's talk about how to eat more things, not focusing on what you can't eat. Let's focus on what you can eat. You can eat so many wonderful things, just not the ones that are going to kill you, perhaps. Because, why? Because we want to get to our optimal older day. It's not because we're trying to punish you or make your life miserable. We want to help you to reach your dream goal of being that healthy elderly person doing all the things that she loves, not a diabetic patient who's had an amputation and is in the hospital because of heart disease and can't walk up a flight of stairs. We don't want to be that person, right? So let's make decisions that lead in the right direction. And that becomes easy, because otherwise we'd just be kind of dumb, honestly. Who would make a choice that led to being unhealthy if she really knew that's what she was doing? We just have to bring it up into our consciousness so that we're doing this with awareness. It's not just rote habit, right? So take it out of the realm of rote habit, put it into consciousness. This is what I'm doing, and this is why. This is my intention to reach my optimal older day, so I'm going to do it with love and joyfulness. I'm eating to feed my beautiful body rather than I'm on a diet and it's punitive and I hate it, right? Different vibe. All right, moving on to movement, also AKA exercise, but a lot of us just hate the word exercise. So exercise, what is exercise? It's just movement. It's moving in a way that, number one, elevates our heart rate. That's cardiovascular exercise, right? And or resistance training. So exercise that builds muscle by breaking down the muscle so that it repairs and then builds. We get more, and the benefits of having more muscle we've talked about ad nauseum, but just to say, improves longevity, reduces diabetes, heart disease, Alzheimer's, makes you look good in a swimsuit, allows you to reach your optimal older day. Because we lose muscle as we age, we better have a lot now. That's just like your retirement fund. You better have it in the bank now, because you're going to need to use it as you get older. Even if you lift weights until you're 85, and I hope you do, you will lose muscle. This is just part of getting older. It's much harder to maintain, so we need to have a lot now. So if you're in your 50s, you better have a lot. And I don't care if you don't have much right now, you can still get a lot. We can build muscle. I personally have gained 4 pounds of muscle in the past 7 months. Since I've been working with my fantastic trainer, Kelly Workman, and you've seen her videos here online, I do that. That's what I do. That is my weightlifting protocol. 30 minutes with Kelly 3 times a week, and I share the workouts with you so you can do the same ones. And this is what I have, and it's pretty healthy. So what do we recommend? Well, at least 30 minutes 5 times a week of something that gets your heart rate up. Now, how high? Well, there's a lot of ways to measure it. Often we say what's called zone 2 if you're using that nomenclature. I often just say if you can talk but not sing. So you're a little out of breath, but not so much that you can't breathe. Not like this. Just a little out of breath so you can still have a conversation if you were jogging with a partner or walking fast with a partner. If you're wearing a heart rate monitor, there's lots of devices now that can tell you exactly what zone 2 is for you. Sometimes we say 220 minus your age. That's not particularly accurate because if you're very fit, your maximum heart rate will be a bit higher than that. But we take your maximum heart rate. Let's just say you're 50. 220 minus your age obviously would be 170. That would be your maximum heart rate. So you'd want to work out at a percentage of that. Maybe if you're in zone 2, it's 65 to 75% of that or something of that nature. So a wearable will tell you that, or I just like the talk but not sing. So for me, that might be jogging. It might be SoulCycle. It might be walking fast uphill on a treadmill. It might be for you just walking your dog around, depending on your level of fitness. You don't have to do what someone else does. You have to do what works for you, but you want to be out of breath. If you're just strolling along and heart rate's not getting elevated enough to make you out of breath, that's a nice way to get outside, but it's not helping your heart. So cardiovascular exercise is improving the health of your heart and blood vessels, hence the name, cardiovascular. So exercising helps improve our heart muscle strength, the blood vessels, because they're having blood push through them, they stay healthier. Really important to reduce heart disease. So 30 minutes 5 times a week or more. So that would be 150 minutes a week or more. Now you can do more. You might want to do an hour 7 days a week, or you might be training for an Ironman and you might be doing 20 hours a week, and that's fine, but at least 30 minutes 5 times a week. Personally, if you're just doing cardio in a zone 2 level, you don't really need a rest day. You're not needing a recovery day. Every day, go outside for a walk. We have to make it part of what we do, just like we brush our teeth, just like we check our phones, just like we do the things that we do. Cardiovascular exercise needs to be one of those things because why? Because if we want to have our optimal older day, we have to have a healthy heart and blood vessels. And blood vessels are in every cell of our body. Important part of our body is our brain. And so this reduces the risk of dementia. And I know because I've asked you, the thing we are most scared of, more than cancer, is Alzheimer's. So why would we not be doing everything in our power to prevent it? Can we prevent it? No. But we can dramatically reduce the risk with nutrition and exercise, not being diabetic, not being overweight, and exercising. We know this. So do that. And then part 2, resistance training. I already talked about 30 minutes 3 times a week. We want to lift heavy enough weights so that if you get to about rep number 10 or 12, you are kind of pretty much done. If you can do 30, elevate the weight. So you want to lift heavier weights. Now, I love SoulCycle. Those of you who go to spin class, they give you 3 or 5 pound weights and you do this all day. That is fun. It's called bike dancing. It is not building muscle. So what I do, you don't have to, but maybe think about it. If I'm going to spend money on going to SoulCycle, I get an 8 pound weight and I do fewer of them. And that's, again, then it becomes a strength training session for me, not just bike dancing. Both are fun, but one of them has more benefit than the other for longevity and reduction in all of those diseases. So 150 minutes of cardiovascular exercise or more, and at least 30 minutes 3 times a week of some type of resistance training that is making your muscles sore the next day. Now that could just be lifting weights, that could be using your own body weight, doing Pilates on the floor, could be doing reformer Pilates, it could be doing push-ups, it could be doing any number of things that are using your muscles. If you live on a farm, you can carry bales of hay around. If you go to CrossFit, they mimic this with tires and bales of hay and ropes and the things that people used to do before we became sedentary. So people who live on farms laugh about the fact that we go to the gym. They're doing this all day long. We just have to be doing something physical that uses our muscles. Again, this doesn't take much time. I encourage you not to think about trying to squeeze this into your schedule, trying to make it fit into your already planned life. I encourage you to think about making this your life. This is your life. Your life is someone who has a family and goes to work and does her movement and eats her healthy food, and that is your life. So if we think about it differently, it becomes different. If we think about, oh, I got to squeeze it in here or there, how about just waking up in the morning and knowing that this is my life? What else are you going to do with your life? Do you have something better to do with your life than create your optimal older day? If you do, put it in the comments below. I can't think of anything better you could do with your life. There's not anything better, I'll just tell you. That was a trick question. There's nothing else you could do that's better than that. For everybody, not just yourself, but your kids, community, everybody who might have to take care of you if you make that other decision, right? So it's good for the world. This is an act of generosity. All right, so we talked about nutrition, we talked about movement. Now let's talk about rest, because rest is important. Out of all the things I'm going to ask you to do, rest is the easiest. You don't have to do anything. All you got to lie down and go to sleep. However, we don't do it. This one doesn't require any effort, yet we still resist it. Human beings are so naturally resistant, and I'm one of you, so I totally get it. But sleeping is critical. Why? Because when we're asleep, we are repairing our brain, we're repairing our cells. As we get older, sleep becomes more difficult. We all know this, right? Babies sleep half the day. Little kids sleep most of the day. Old people, especially those with Alzheimer's, hardly sleep at all. Our ability to sleep certainly changes with age, so we've got to focus on it more. Now, many people say, and there are studies that show 7 to 9 hours of sleep is ideal. Not for everybody. Some people do very well with 6 hours of sleep. Some people need 10. But you will find the amount of sleep that's optimal for you when you wake up in the morning feeling refreshed, you have energy. That's the amount that you need. For 95% of people, it's in the 7 to 9 range. Hey, more is nice, but we don't need more, most likely. The quality of sleep is what's important. There are lots of different ways to measure it. I still like the Oura ring. I'm wearing one. There's other wearable devices. The main type of sleep that reduces as we get older is the type of sleep called deep sleep. Now, in deep, slow-wave sleep, that is the phase of sleep where we are really actively repairing our brain. It's also the type that disappears very quickly as we get older. So improving deep sleep is critical, and some of the things that we do to damage our deep sleep are alcohol, staying up on our phones, keeping our minds really busy and active. These are things we know already, so we want to really reduce the things that are going to make deep sleep worse, because it's going to get worse anyway, so let's do everything we can to make it better. What are those things? I already talked about minimizing or getting rid of alcohol. 2 hours before bed, if you have to have alcohol, limit the sugar in it, because that's a component also. Even if you sleep well with alcohol, or you think you do, it creates broken sleep. You wake up more, the sleep quality is not as good. I know that myself. I've done this test 1,000 times. When I don't drink, I sleep really well. When I do drink, my deep sleep is completely shattered 100% of the time. I don't know why I need to learn this lesson 1,000 times, but apparently I do. So I know this is true for me and my patients. Eating earlier, that means 2 hours before bed, is helpful. There is some evidence that eating a high carbohydrate meal and then going to bed, we don't sleep as well, perhaps because our sugar drops sometime during the early hours of the morning when our deep sleep is the highest. We have more deep sleep in those first few hours, but usually before midnight, and then we wake up, or it disrupts our sleep. So eating earlier, and then of course dark and light. We've talked about this before in separate videos. Sleep in the dark. When you wake up, expose yourself to bright light. We want to set our own body's rhythm so that our brain is like, oh, it's time to go to sleep, it's dark. It's time to wake up, it's light. So get the light out of your room, go out in the morning, have your coffee in bright light. Our eyes train our brain to know when it's time to sleep. Just like little kids, you put them in a dark room, they go to sleep. Put them in a light room, they're awake. Their brains just know how to do this because their intellectual part hasn't started thinking about what time is it on the clock. So those are things we already know. I'll link you to a video I made recently about sleep. Too much to mention here, except there are things that you can take to help you sleep. That leads me into hormone management. We all know optimal hormone replacement is critical. We've talked about this ad nauseum almost, but it's always worth talking about it again. For menopausal women, we know beyond the shadow of a doubt that replacing estradiol, that's our primary estrogen, progesterone, even if you don't have a uterus, progesterone's helpful for sleep, so I give it to even people who don't need it for uterine cancer protection, plus or minus testosterone. Enormous benefits for everything. Reduction in heart disease, diabetes, death from breast cancer, colon cancer, osteoporosis, Alzheimer's disease, loss of muscle, sexual function, bladder health, the list goes on. If we're not optimizing our sex hormones, ladies, we are not optimizing our chance of getting to that optimal older day. Now, there are little old ladies who never took hormones for sure, but that's like saying my uncle smoked 2 packs of cigarettes and lived to be 95. Yes, there are exceptions, but we know as soon as we hit menopause, our bone density starts to take a massive nosedive. Our blood vessels start to change in an unhealthy way, including in our brain. Lots of things start changing. Our vagina starts to get thinner and drier. We get more bladder infections. Our sex drive goes away. It's safe, it's easy, it's inexpensive in most cases. just do it, okay? I highly recommend it. If you're still fighting against it, educate yourself more, because every menopause expert, without exception, will now tell you this is what we know. Menopausal hormone therapy for the great majority of women is vastly beneficial. The risks are minimal. For most people, there are none. And there's a tiny group who should not take menopausal hormone therapy, possibly only patients who have an estrogen-sensitive breast cancer and only the time that they're being treated. It's a very small group, so that's not most of you. And even if you are a breast cancer patient, we've got other things we can do to help you. So optimizing your hormones, critical. And then in the bucket of optimizing your labs in general, we need every year to check our kidney function, liver function, the status of critical vitamins like vitamin D, vitamin B12. I personally like to check a very detailed lipid panel, including that very important protein ApoB, ApoB being the most important marker that tells us our risk of heart disease. Okay, easy, once a year. Make sure you see someone who knows how to interpret those labs and won't just say, oh, you're fine. No, you're not fine. We want you to be optimal. That's different than fine. So we can do that. Come see us at Complete Midlife Wellness Center. We see patients who live in Texas, of course, where we're licensed, also California, where I'm licensed. We can see patients from any state in an educational and coaching platform. We're not practicing medicine since we don't have a medical license there. We have about to have 3 offices here in Houston, but we do see patients remotely on a video platform if it's not convenient for you to come in and see us, and we can do all of that for you, and it's not that hard. Don't be scared. We're not going to give you a million things to do, just those few that I mentioned. A couple of things with your nutrition, clean it up a little bit. A couple of things with your movement, just jazz it up a little bit. Focus on your sleep, jazz that up a little bit. Don't forget to optimize your hormones. Emotional health, that is a whole topic in and of its own, but do not forget about it. You deserve to be happy, peaceful, loved, free from toxic relationships. Who cares if you have all that other stuff right if you're miserable? So if you are in that category, we can talk to you about that too. Sexual wellness just goes along with all of it. We'll talk to you about that as well. A lot of things, but it's really manageable. Our visits take 90 minutes, and we can make a health longevity plan for you to get to your optimal older day. Now, I can't guarantee it because you might get struck by lightning, of course. However, we can make it possible for you to get to your optimal older day, because the decisions that most of us are making now, quite frankly, are making it impossible. So just think about it. Think about your optimal older day, all the things you want to do when you're 85 to 95, and do the things now that make that possible. And then leave the rest up to nature, because we can't control everything. We can only make it possible. So if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. Please share it with your friends. Check out below how you can come see us, either in person or through a remote platform, because we want you all to be healthy. Check out our retreat. It's happening in November. You can talk about all of this stuff with me and my wonderful co-facilitators in person on the beach for 4 days. Amazing. That's going to be so fun. Can't wait to see you there. All of that is below, and I can't wait to see you next week.